Thank you, Mr Brady. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. Can I congratulate my honourable friend for securing this debate on what is a very important issue, and commend the work that she's done and the passion she shows for strengthening families. I approach this debate from the point of view, from my own passion, I suppose, about early years, primary schools and early intervention, particularly in vulnerable families and deprived communities, like many that I see in my constituency. So I've kind of approached my own comments from that perspective. In Mansfield, there's a very high level of family breakdown, of deprivation, domestic violence, other very concerning problems affecting families particularly. I'm keen to ensure that we have the support services available to help these families, and I've been working with a number of local organisations in support of this. But I think family hubs are an excellent initiative to help the most vulnerable families. I think by providing accessible early intervention and lifelong support, often it's only a very low level of support that's required to help keep families and individuals on the right path and to make them feel secure. But that preventative approach, I think, is the right one. I think sometimes that's the aspect that we miss across so many of our local services. We deal with crises when they happen, but quite often we don't deal with the early signs, the prevention that is actually probably arguably more important for a lot of people. My honourable friend mentioned duplication and lack of coordination. I seem to say this a lot across a lot of different areas. It seems that across almost all of our public services, whether it's health, social care, housing, regeneration, even bin collection, actually we're consistently battling with an increasingly complex array of organisations with competing priorities, different budget pots, different agendas and barriers that are drawn between those services. And that's as a result of decades of short-term fixes, I feel, that over a long time we've created new bodies, new organisations to deal with particular short-term issues instead of looking at the wholesale reform and change of services or local government as probably needs to happen. The challenge across all of our services, therefore, and particularly social services, youth services, and that kind of preventative work, is the collaboration. It's how do you bring those organisations together, overcome those barriers that have been built over those decades, and pool the resources. How do you get them to work towards shared goals? And I think that's something that family hubs in particular can help to achieve. A lot of vulnerable families have a wide range of needs across several different areas, mental health, addiction, or even parenting support programmes or low-level help, somebody to go and socialise with, a whole variety of challenges. It's simpler for parents to have that range of services under one roof, to have the different departments work as one team. They can communicate better, respond to local needs, catch warning signs of problems earlier and deal with individuals in a more coordinated way. But it also builds trust between organisations and service users in a better way than if you're passed from pillar to post across different departments. And I find dealing with so many vulnerable individuals in my constituency, it's often trust that is the biggest challenge. You don't get yourself quite often into a situation when your family is on the verge of homelessness if you've not been let down by people along the way, and that breaks down that trust. As a councillor in Ashfield in a previous life, I saw firsthand the great benefits and the work that was going on there in terms of cross-organisational collaboration, working to target the most troubled families. And the results have been amazing, actually, for the families and for the taxpayer too. They're New Cross teams, as they're known, because the area is called New Cross, one of the most deprived areas of Ashfield. Targets those families who might not always get picked out when they've been dealing with one department because there's rubbish on the lawn, they've been dealing with another department because they're absent from school, and another department for something else. The police are aware of them because there's unsocial behaviour, but nobody looks at the whole picture, and if you do, it's very clear that they're not able to support themselves, so they have a range of challenges. And actually, by bringing all of those services together in what is effectively a family hub, although without the premises, they work across different departments. That family has one point of contact who can deal with all of those services for them and take that holistic approach to supporting the whole family with a range of issues instead of dealing with little bits in isolation. Mansfield's got some great examples of schools like Forest Town Primary with what's known as nurture provision, supporting the most vulnerable children at primary school, and again, almost a school within a school where they're providing this holistic care for those kids to help them engage with primary education early, so they don't become the kids when they're 15 and 16 who are expelled and who are, in a whole range of different problems in their adolescence. And the earlier I think we can get families access to that kind of support, the better. We also, of course, have Sure Start centres, provide useful services for expectant parents and young children. I'm keen to protect all of those programmes, so I think we need to, but to bring services together, I think, is a helpful thing and helps to direct families locally as well. If you have one point of contact that you're made aware of early on, then you always know where to go to get help. I think the creation of family hubs will offer a greater level of service. I think there's opportunities to bring different services together under one roof and then potentially expand them actually and save money at the same time in a lot of cases, if authorities can work together, which, as I've said before, is often a big challenge. But quite a number of organisations have called for government to review these services. I wonder if it's something the Minister might touch on in terms of particularly youth services, Sure Start and things like that, where local government finance is sometimes challenging some of these non-statutory services. Action for Children has called for a new vision for the future of early years services, starting with a review of early years to understand the level of provision, the best practice that exists around the country. I'd support a review, as it would help those local authorities deliver the best care. As with anything, there are councils, local authorities and services who have dealt with funding pressures in a much better way than others. We see, for every bad example where services have been lost, there's a great one that has adapted and been innovative. And to share that best practice and send it out from this place, I think would be a really positive thing. The efficient use of funding, catching problems early, stopping people spiralling into a crisis that then requires far more expensive and intensive intervention later on, is a really important thing for our children, for families across communities. Children need care and support, and vulnerable families often need assistance to provide that care. So I fully support my honourable friend's work on family hubs, and I hope the Minister will be very positive in his remarks as well.